Hey guys, welcome back to Video Game Book Club. I'm Daniel and this is Clay.
And today we're going to be playing Crystalis like we told you we would at the beginning of the month.
Yeah, it's a new format we're going to try. The whole point of Video Game Book Club is to be like a book club, but for
video games.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Exactly what it sounds like.
Weird.
So we thought we would try this. We announced the game at the very beginning of the month. We're going to do our review now. And let us know in the comments below or on Twitter what you thought.
Yeah.
I should probably say that in the outro.
That's fine. You can say it here
Or we
too.
can say it now too.
Yeah, why not?
Because we love you.
We do.
Enjoy. What was your first game? Most people my age cut their teeth on Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario 3, the far superior follow-up. These games are timeless and set standards for games that are still observed today. For my 4-year-old brain, though, it wasn't Mario that sucked me in and changed my life. It was a little-known action RPG that set the tone for what I would look for in games for years to come.
Crystalis, known as God Slayer, Sonata of the Faraway Sky in Japan, was released in 1990 by SNK, a company more associated with the Neo Geo than the Zelda-inspired RPGs. Crystalis was released just a year before parents would be fighting with their kids over Nintendo's next-generation SNES console and was skipped over by a majority of the gaming public. Being released in an age before video game reviews were the norm, Nintendo Power ran a preview before its launch and a guide for the first half, but these served more as advertisements than a critical look at the software. Crystalis is graphically impressive for an NES game, with great use of color and interesting, detailed on-screen sprites as enemies. Unlike Final Fantasy, which would cut away from the player-controlled overworld to a dedicated battle screen that would load detailed sprites with little to no animation, the enemies in Crystalis are on the screen just like in Zelda. And while the enemies and characters in Zelda are much more recognizable and iconic, Crystalis' baddies are much more detailed.
To be fair, Crystalis came out 4 years after the original Legend of Zelda and 3 after the Adventures of Link, in a time where so much more was known about how to get every drop out of the NES. Crystalis is still instantly recognizable and has the chops to stand together with some of the most popular games from the generation. What really blew me away all those years ago and still does is the game's score. From the epic world map theme that plays on battlefields, to tranquil town themes, and even the more frenetic boss battle music, Crystalis' music sticks with you and has stuck with me for 27 years. Gun to my head, it might be my personal favorite soundtrack on the NES.
Daniel, Mario.
I know what I said.
Zelda?
I said I know what I said?
Okay. Final Fantasy.
I said I know what... Well, actually, maybe it's tied, but I stand by the soundtrack. The way Final Fantasy VI opening theme pulls at my heart, or the Legend of Zelda world theme makes me smile and I get excited for adventure, is the same reaction I have to this very day when I hear this. Or this. And especially this. I will never tire of the look or the sound of Crystalis. It is a part of who I am and deserves every ounce of praise I can lay at its feet.
While I don't have the emotional attachment that Daniel does to the game, I knew from the first time I turned it on that this game was indeed something special. Even the opening title screen is gorgeous with its crystal-like lettering and adventurous but short title theme that plays before the intro movie repeats, which itself is better done than a lot of titles that would come out long after and on higher-end machines. The game's sprites are every bit as detailed and impressive as Daniel said. Townspeople and monsters are much larger and intricate than most 8-bit games could pull off and are made up of more frames of animation than most. The blue slime seen in the initial field stage after leaving the village of Leaf are incredibly reminiscent of the Dragon Quest monsters of the same name, and the larger versions located in the second field are a simple and goofy character. While the giant insects located in the swamp have enough visible legs to make even a slight case of entomophobia, commonly called insectophobia, go screaming for the hills.
My turn. Do you have any idea how many of these tiger men, located in the same area as the blue slimes are, I've killed over the years? Years and years of going in circles while taking Tony to task. It's not great, Tiger Man, because you're dead. So I get overleveled and kill the stupid vampire boss with his bats. I mean, now it's not a challenge, but when I was 4, that boss was impossible. Crystalis for a long time to me was nothing more than Leaf Village and killing Tigermen, since the slimes are worth less money and experience. I've wiped out whole families, entire generations. The only reason there are still Tigermen to this day is because of Crystalis' ability to respawn fodder when you scroll the screen far enough. Their corpses were my first introduction to the RPG staple of grinding, and I've been doing it ever since. Especially early game, just like little 4-year-old me did with Crystalis. Another standout sprite for me may not be the most impressive, but it's something I've always felt an attachment to. Playing at such an early age, and only having a rudimentary understanding of the complex at the time mechanics, being able to move forward in the game and reach a new milestone was a big deal to me. Imagine my surprise the first time I found the Onyx statue in the grass, earned my gas mask, and ran away from these monsters and these flowers that all want to kill me in this foreboding swamp to reach a village of the cutest pink bunnies I've ever seen. They are just so darn adorable.
Daniel, actually, according to the manual, those aren't bunnies. They're dwarfs.
Like dwarf rabbits, right?
Nope. Like Gimli from Lord of the Rings dwarf.
But they're pink and they have long folded back ears and they're cute and they make me feel warm inside and they make me feel this sense of accomplishment and I love them.
Sorry, Daniel. Those are some hi-ho, hi-ho. It's off to work they go, dwarfs.
I will not live in the bunny village-less world that you are trying to force upon me with your facts.
The game looks and sounds great. It also plays incredibly well for an action-adventure NES game. Controls are head and tails above the 2 Zelda games on the system, although there is occasionally a regrettable hitbox issue where the game will register damage at times when the monster did not actually hit you. This is regrettable but easy to look past since it doesn't happen too often and the sprites of enemies, the player character, and the projectiles are so varied. Crystalis obviously pushed the NES to the extreme and the occasional fault is made acceptable by the mountain of things the game excels at. Taking a page from the turn-based RPGs of the time, Crystalis introduces an experience-based leveling system into a more action-based battle system. Fighting and exploring on the same screen in real time, just like Zelda, keeps Crystalis from being bogged down by the same complaints that some have for slower-paced Dragon Quest, or the story-heavy Final Fantasy series. But this doesn't mean that Crystalis is story light. It actually has a strong and slightly more inventive narrative than most fantasy games that seem to take more direction from Lord of the Rings than thinking outside Shire and coming up with something new. Well, new-ish.
The inclusion of armor and other equipment is also something that blew my mind, and the fact that your character model even has slight changes depending on what you have equipped, a feature that most RPG series didn't tackle till years later. There are only 5 swords in Crystalis, including the titular Crystalis itself, but each has 2 items to power it up, both a ball and a bracelet. You can charge your sword to do stronger and stronger attacks, some of which can even affect the environment. And there's a magic system where spells can be equipped to an action button and used as a consumable. Many of the systems we take for advantage today are things I was first introduced to in Crystalis, and since they were used so well, they help foster a love for a genre that I have spent thousands of hours playing. Weapons, armor, items, ends, quests. Crystalis was so much more to me than run to the right and jump over stuff. It was my introduction to fantasy, to sci-fi, to a world of games that are more than the sum of their gameplay mechanics or their quest lines, but instead can make you feel happiness or sadness through writing and music, through trial and error and boss fights, through well thought out and expertly designed gameplay.
Yeah, what he said. Crystalis controls so much better and more fluid than most of its peers. It was truly a joy to go through the game for the first time. In grand NES fashion, mechanics and quests aren't always the most well telegraphed, but I'd rather have to explore a little more in the world the game lays out in front of you than have it hold my hand from objective to objective. Crystalis, surprisingly for a game I hadn't really heard of other than Daniel praising it incessantly, plays as well as it looks and sounds. It also has one of the best and well thought out stories that I have ever experienced with an NES game.
The year is 1997, and while we were all forced to watch the bomb that was Shaquille O'Neal starring in Steel, the world of Crystalis was ended by thermonuclear war. 100 years later, Shaq rises from his grave to make Kazam 2! Nah, just kidding. Instead, the hero of Crystalis awakens from cryogenic sleep to find a world filled with mutants and more resembling medieval times in the world he's familiar with. Instead of Bill Nye the Science Guy, the far future of 2097 more resembles the world of Game of Thrones, minus the incest and intrigue and a lot more magic. I mean, come on. The Children of the Forest throw like 4 fireballs and that's it? I just want to know when Sam's going to get a cast lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Sleep! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!
Somehow, even though the survivors have left science technology behind, they still built a floating tower filled to the brim with weapons to stop another nuclear war. I mean, who could have ever thought that a powerful empire would someday rise up and want to take over the tower in their quest for world domination instead of just, hanging out and letting the tower curb their appetite for destruction?
Emperor Dragon of the Dragonia Empire will be fulfilling that role in our quest today. You'll fight through several different areas as you meet up with the 4 wise sages and collect your 4 elemental swords. You'll fight mutants and Dragon soldiers as well as an assortment of bosses that range from easy to General Kelbesk, who can go straight to hell. Once you have all 4 swords, you'll meet face to face with Emperor Dragon, who turns out to be a dragon. Emperor Dragon of the Dragonia Empire is a dragon. Impossible to figure that one out. Emperor Dragon. Basically, whatever. And now, let's storm the tower. You'll go through a couple of floors of monsters in your final epic quest. Combine all 4 swords to forge Crystalis, the ultimate weapon. Get to the end and fight the true last boss, who is a pushover. This isn't even really a fight. It's fucking bullshit.
This is something a lot of games do. Think ending of Super Metroid. You fight Mother Brain to a point that the thing I won't spoil happens. You get powered up, then boom, fight is over because Mother Brain can't stand up to your new power. Crystalis kind of just skips that first part, where you have the challenging boss fight. This is probably my biggest complaint about the game. Such an epic quest that ends kind of on a dud. Don't get me wrong, this doesn't take away the 8 to 9 hours of fun before it, just something that still rubs me the wrong way. Crystalis for the NES is amazing, and I hope you played along and enjoyed it too. Crystalis on the Game Boy Color is an abomination and is an unacceptable stand-in. I was going to play through both so I could have a nice little section on some differences, because how could someone so effectively make me hate a game I love? Nintendo somehow knocks that out of the park. How does this get turned into this? It's gross, and it limits the area of view so much that enemies can now shoot you from off screen. Great. Also, 99% of the music is completely changed to this generic as fuck bullshit. Nintendo makes amazing games, and apparently they can take other teams' amazing games and turn it into a trash fire. There are some quality of life changes, but I will not praise a game that takes my favorite song and substitutes it for this.
Let us know below in the comments what you thought about Crystalis. Did you have a favorite sword or enemy? Favorite song? what were your feelings about the end sequence? You've heard our take. Now, let us hear yours.
Okay, Clay, so honest opinion, what do you think of Crystalis?
I thought Crystalis was extremely good. Never played it before. Nice blend of Zelda and Final Fantasy that I've been told about. I saw both in there.
Yeah,
Crystalis cool.
I love this game. It is probably the game that made me love gaming, as we said in the review.
Nice.
But yeah, it is absolutely Zelda and Final Fantasy had a kid.
Yeah.
And made this wonderful, wonderful treat.
It was a good kid also.
Yeah,
it wasn't
it was
a
a great
shit.
kid. It's a great kid, except for the final boss. I'm not a big fan of that.
That was real easy.
Yeah, let us know below what you guys thought. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed our video. We will be announcing next month's video very shortly.
Yes,
but
we will.
between then and now, let us know what you thought of the video. Like and subscribe.
Yep, there it is again.
And what you thought of the game.
Yeah, below.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. I'm just gonna sit here and play on my phone.